Hi, I'm Rob. I'll make it better, that's what I do. So I have made a lot of videos here on this channel, right? So if you're a parent that has a dyslexic kid or reading disabilities, the instructions is laid out in the videos here in how to do it. And how this works is that my method, or whatever you call it, is based on how people actually read in here. Because everything you do is a skill. And the important thing I want to stress in this video is that you have to give them proper feedback and repeat it. And the reason for that is you can explain things, but if you can't do something, which is what dyslexia is actually, you can understand what to do, but you can't do it because your skill is not in here yet. And then you have to organize it and sort it out for your kid. So repeating, and so you show them the word cat, you ask them to spell it out loud so you can track what's going on, right? C-A-T, T-A-C, that's usually how people spell it who are really good readers. Someone with dyslexia may start to spell it when they look at the word and go, okay, C, and then they have a break, A-T. And that is how the brain for them sees in their head. They see the letter C, and then it's a break, a space between that, and then they go AT. So what we want to do is to organize the word cat so they can spell it both forward and backward. They know it's correct, and they have it down. And here's the funny thing about the brain, how it works. If you do this with the first word with cat, and then they can do that backward and forward, you can track them, they have no issue. And whenever you struggle with the next word or such, and if they struggle with that and you know, get frustrated because that's easy, then you just go back and repeat the first word. Because here's the funny thing about the brain. Once you have around 3 to 5 words, give or take, the brain starts to catch on how to fix this for themselves. And to understand this, if you're teaching a kid who can't ride the bike, for example, right? You explain to them, all you need to do is sit on the bike and keep the balance. But they can't do it. They understand what to do, but they can't do it. And dyslexia works the same way. So if you're lucky, your kid have what I call, because in my perspective here, there's basically 2 versions of dyslexia. One, your kid has everything they need, but it's not organized. Using this approach that I've laid out in the videos, look at the word, memorize it, put it down, spell it, and then ask them, was that correct when they spell it. That's why we start with the easy word, right, like cat. Now, when you start adding a new word, they may struggle with it. People are different in different countries, so you're probably going to have a, you can do this in every language, Spanish, Greek, Chinese, Mandarin, sorry, French. You don't use English spelling, obviously, in those languages. Is that when you use a word like which, wish, which. So what happens when the word sounds similar for people, especially with dyslexia, is that they haven't learned the distinction to sort that out visually. They can't make the distinction or difference between them when they hear the words. And then when they're going to spell them or read, the brain just gets confused. So that means that while they can understand, they are spelled differently, but they can't do it. And that's what you're going to teach your kid to do. By repeating and giving them proper feedback, ask them when after they spell the word cat or which or something like that, and you ask them, was that correct to spell? And the kid will give you probably 3 responses. Yes. No. And the third one is kind of tricky because they go, maybe. That means no. There was only one response that you want to hear. Yeah, that was right. And you can give them feedback. Because here's the funny thing. Sometimes they can be absolutely sure they spelled it correctly, but they didn't. So instead of telling them, you can just ask them, all right, so no, that was not correct. And they go, it wasn't? No. And you can also first do it. Do you know what? And sometimes they actually know what letter they missed out or something like that. And instead of explaining what they did wrong, just show them the word again and ask them, "Is this how you spelled it?" And the answer was obviously then no, because you know better. And the important part here is, this is why I stress this video on this subject, is to repeat it, and give the proper feedback. Explaining it won't help your kid. Okay? You want to repeat it, give them the feedback, was it correct or not, give them it was not, it was correct. And if they struggle with a new word, go back to the word cat and repeat that a few times, backward and forward. I had a kid, this is over 20 years ago, and I had a small lecture in the evening. I had like 50 people in the audience, and I was asking, you know, oh yeah, I'm going to talk about, you know, my approach here to, you know, overcome dyslexia, and a kid with the parent who has, you know, or here who has dyslexia, obviously it's going to be one. And it was my kid is dyslexic, yeah. How bad? Well, he's been diagnosed and all that stuff, and it's been going on for years now. He's, I think he was 13 at the time or something like that. And I said, do you want to come up on stage and do my shit? And the kid, well, yeah, okay. So when he tried to, you know, I asked him to spell some word. When he tried to, you know, spell the word, his body did this. It vibrated because his brain is trying to hold the word in place, but he couldn't. It fell away. There's a neurological cause for this. So I just worked through that. And in 45 minutes, I had him spell National Encyclopedia forward and backward. And his dyslexia stopped there. He started reading books after he'd been with this 45-minute presentation with me. Now, here's the funny thing about that. There were 7 teachers in that room from the same school. None of them talked to me. None of them wanted to know how to implement this in schools and all that stuff. It will fix the current problem. In Sweden, for example, 5 to 15% of kids leaving 9th grade when they're around 15 years old. 5 to 15% of the kids, that's right, 10,000 kids yearly or something like that, have reading disability or dyslexia or such. And if my method that you've seen here on the videos were to be implemented, that would be probably down to, I don't know, 1%, something like that. Maybe even less. Because once you know how this works, so I'm just going to give, I did another video for that, but if you go into a classroom and ask the kids there at a young age, okay, I want you kids to take a paper and a pen in front of you, and I want you to write a sentence, and I want you to write it straight, right? Now, you can immediately identify on the body language on the kids in the classroom which one has struggling to write straight, right? You maybe went through that yourself as a parent in school, that you told you to write straight and you struggle with it. Because the reason why you probably struggle with it at first, because you were writing it like this, when your head was straight up and paper was in front of you. What you have to do to write straight, you have to lean your head, turn the paper. Instead of writing things like this, you actually turn the paper and then you can write straight, because the brain has to see angles to be able to write straight. You can't judge it otherwise. I had a friend of mine, his kid was doing homework, in the kitchen, and I looked over to the kid and what kind of homework is he doing? Oh, he got, how to write straight. And I looked at the kid and I said, he's not writing straight. And my friend was like, yeah, that's why he's practicing. Well, he's not practicing correctly because he's not writing straight. If you practice, you should write straight then, right? And I looked over to the kid and I said, because the kid was sitting like this trying to write straight. He didn't lean his head, he didn't turn his paper, so I told the kid, hey, I want you to do this, take the paper, turn it, lean your head, and the kid wrote straight immediately. It's a neurological basis for that. Now, the teacher in school that you have, or your kid have, doesn't know this. And all you have to do as a parent now, when you know how this works, you go into a classroom, hey, I just want to ask the kids a question. Can you take a paper, write straight, and then you can go and point that kid and that kid and that kid. They all have problem writing straight, right? You look at the teacher, and the teacher will go, yeah, how do you know that? Watch me fix it. And they go over there and tell the kids to do, right, lean their head, turn the paper, and they all run straight, fixed, like that. That's what knowledge does to you. Once you know how something works, you can identify. So when you work with your kid, remember this. Show them the word, ask them to memorize it, then put it away, ask them to spell it out loud, track them, spell it, and they spell it C-A-T, good, backward, T-A-C. What color is the word? The letters of the word. You see the letters in one color and the background in another one. All these things are sorting out how the brain see the word in their heads. Now, if your kids struggle with that, or sometimes they do, they usually play video games. They have a handheld device, they have a computer, piece of screen, maybe even a TV screen, and you can ask them, put the word on the TV screen. And usually that's no visual overlap, so they will be able to then make it easier for them to see the word. Some kids may need that. And remember, you have to repeat it, give them the feedback. And just to give you an example, 45 minutes that I did with that kid on the lecture there, presentation. I had the kids, I worked for a couple of hours for a few times, because I do the same thing. I start with the cat, they can do that, I sort it out, and then you start implementing the next word, which they struggle with, and now sometimes they hit the hurdle, and once they hit the hurdle, you have to repeat it until they can do the new word, the same way they can do cat. So if the new word is which, or wish, or some other word, until they can do it the same way they can do with cat, you don't move on, because it's not the number of words here. 3 words to 5 words usually is enough for the brain to start self-adjusting in how to spell and read. A lot of parents, they get so surprised. They look at the kid, I had, one-day workshop back in the day, and they look at the kid, what are you doing? I'm reading, Mom. And that after lunch, by the way. So I had 2 hours in the morning when I went through all the kids there. And some of the kids, when the parents work with the kids after lunch, they can do it. The dyslexia is gone. And the parent, they haven't, understood that yet. So they look at the kid, what are you doing? Well, I'm reading now. You can just do it. So if you're lucky, your kid has that level of, organization. It just needs to organize better. If your kid have the other one, then you do the same thing, it just takes more time, because you have to build the function so it's stable. You have to build the function so it's stable. You have to, I have to repeat this over and over again so people understand. Oh, I have to give them feedback, repeat the feedback until they can do it automatically. Yes, with every word you start doing it. After 3 words, usually, that's when the improvement kicks in automatically. That's the way, because brains are recognizing the pattern in how to fix the word, and also that usually fix reading along the way. And the people in the field of dyslexia, they don't do this because they don't understand that this is how people read. And people read, they have a word in their head or a sentence in their head, and they sort this out in this way. Anyway, I just wanted to make this short update so you understand the importance of giving them the proper feedback, repeat it, giving them the proper feedback. If they struggle with a new word too much, you get frustrated, just go back to cat and ask them to spell C-A-T-T-C-O. Because once something is easier, it's easier, to go, oh, I can do that, and then start applying for the next word. And at some point when you work with the kid, you will see and notice improvement, because the reading something and starting to spell something becomes easier and easier. I had parents, they were like, this is like magic. No, it's just science. This is how people read. The people in the field of dyslexia, they don't know how people actually read, because people call it unconscious. It's not. Every skill you have, it's a contextual memory. It's something you do in the context and with feedback. Once you have the skill, like riding a bike, driving a car, using a cell phone or computer, yeah. So good luck, and remember to repeat things, give them proper feedback. Don't explain it because it won't work. They will nod, okay, but they can't do it. You have to give them the feedback. And once they have built that, at some point they just read, and you go, wow, that was easy. Because for some of you who do this with your kids, it would be like, oh, that was easy, now we can do it. And in school, because I had this kid, he was 15 at the time, and he, you know, he was basically from grade from 1 to 5, 1 is bad and 5 is, you know, the best. He was at the 1. I did the first session with him and his sister, and I came back for a follow-up and checked because his sister needed a little bit more push. He was done. He told me, you know, the week after you was here, yeah, I aced everything. I aced every test. And my classmate and my teacher asked me how I cheated. And I said, didn't they ask what you did? No, they just assumed I cheated. Didn't you explain to them I was there to help you overcome your dyslexia? No, they didn't take. They thought, that's not possible. You can't go from having 1 in grade and then ace everything to 5. It's not possible. But it was. Because he was, you know, one of the lucky ones, you know. He just needed a reorganization. His sister needed another session, but that was, you know, people are different, right? Remember that. And be patient with your kid. Good luck.